guys, when you come over is to what? Probably.
First
check
thing.
the speed. First thing is to check the speed. Okay, now, again, these are step pulleys, right? This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. That one has 4 steps. The belts have to run straight across the pulleys. You can't like mix and match, okay? There's a chart inside the cover here that tells you what speed with what setup. It has a picture of basically all 3 step pulleys, okay? So the slowest speed is basically the belt is on the back on the top one, and the belt is on the bottom on the front one. That's the slowest speed that this machine will go, okay? And basically that would be 200 and I can't hardly read it, 215 RPMs, okay? All right, so we got the belt on the top there, the belt on the bottom. All right, and it doesn't have a separate picture for all of these. It just shows like what speed this one, and this one would be with it here, okay? So we're at 215. Now, do the belts need to be tight?
Yes.
Yes. How do we tighten the belts?
Move the motor back.
Got to move the motor back. Okay, so these are pretty tight, but let's say they were loose. Okay, we got a lock on each side for that motor adjustment. Okay, these are the 2 screws that lock that motor. Right now, you can see it's loose. So to tighten it, what we got to do, there's a big lever over on this side, and when I push that, see what that does to the motor. It tightens up the belt. So get that really tight. Tighten the one on this side. Up. Tighten the one on this side, tighten the one on the other side. Maybe get somebody to help you, like I'm doing here with Mr. Thank you, Mr. Summerfield.
No problem.
Okay, and now that's nice and tight. Okay. All right, circle cutter. Put this thing all the way up into the chuck. Okay, all the way up. Not this part, but just the shaft all the way up. Tighten it up by hand, and then do all 3 as tight as you can get them. And be careful because this thing is sharp, and if your hand slips, you don't want to hit the cutter. Okay. I really put about everything I could put into that. Okay, I mean, I really tightened this thing up good. You guys need to do that. Now, I just got that one to turn a little bit more.
Be careful when you're taking it back off when you're finally done with this, because your hands can slip.
Yep.
And those teeth around the chuck are real sharp, and so's the tool.
Yep. When you take it off, what you want to do, guys, put it in here like this. Use the palm of your hand and just pop it like that to get it loose. You don't want to just grab it and turn it, because when it goes, your hand will go really fast.
I've learned the hard way.
Yeah. Okay, so tight, tight, and tight. You see what I'm doing there? I'm kind of using the palm of my hands again to tighten that. All right, make sure you really tighten that up. Okay. This is board number 1. I've got it labeled board number 1. I've got it board number 1 labeled there. Okay, we need a nice flat piece of scrap wood.
Flatter than that?
This one is not good because somebody's got super glue all over it,
yeah.
and it's not going to sit flat.
Now you have to change the height of the table.
We are.
What about down below?
Okay. This one would probably be fine. We can use the one below. Just make sure you get all the sawdust off. Okay, now let's bring the height up.
You need to So you didn't check to see if the table was square?
Well, when I start this, when that circle cutter starts going around, if it doesn't touch evenly, when it first touches down, we'll know right off the bat if it's not level or not.
Now, your wood doesn't look flat on that board. How big of a deal is that going to be?
I don't think it'll be a problem. It'll be okay. Once we get her clamped down. Now you got to really be careful that this doesn't hit the clamp. Okay, so I'm going to turn this like that so I can have that clamp over there. I'm going to bring this down. By the way, that depth stop, you don't have to keep turning it. There's a button on there you press. Listen, please. There's a button that you turn, and you can raise and lower that. Okay? And I really don't need to worry about the depth gauge here. Now, I am on board number 2. I am going to have to worry about that. Okay? All right, so I got this down, and it's a good idea just to twist it a little bit to make sure that it is centered. And go ahead and lock that in place. But that's not enough clamp. Okay, we got to have another clamp on there. So I'm going to use a, what's this called?
A clamp?
No.
Parallel.
I call it the
It's actually, the real name on this is a hand screw clamp.
In the textbook it says
Parallel jaw clamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've called it both, but
I like wood clamp. But he's right. Is
Hey.
this a wood screw clamp?
now you got to be careful that to make sure this is going to clear.
Now see how he's now flattened the board?
So it's very secure. Now you're going to come hopefully up. I'm hitting the clamp.
On the backside.
We'll move this out to the edge here. And it is important, guys, that you keep these parallel. If the jaws are not parallel, you guys know what that word means? If we basically drew an imaginary line across this edge and went out to infinity, they would never touch, right? And they would stay the same distance apart. Okay, that looks pretty good. Hopefully, yep, I'm going to clear now. So, go down slow until that cutter, the fly cutter, just starts touching the wood. You don't want to gouge that in. Okay. Now this thing was dead on when we did Tyler's the other day, and it's not now. Okay, so this side is low, so it means it's gotten bumped. I don't know how these things, whoa. It's still off a little bit. Okay, now notice that this center part here is kind of the limiting factor. That's not going to drill into the wood, okay? And so when you get to there, go ahead and stop, and then we'll flip it over. And make sure that we get all the dust cleaned off. too much work. Maybe you guys would rather just make bird houses.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Since it's so easy.
My 4th grader could make a
Yeah,
birdhouse.
my boys did that in Cub Scouts in 2nd grade.
My dad wants to see it. He never would be interested.
This is fine woodworking, fellers.
You can make a living doing this.
Okay, now, notice my left thumb is on the stop button. As soon as that cutter gets through to the other side, that middle piece will start spinning, and I'm going to turn it off. Don't let it come up until it stops. Okay, you saw the center start spinning, so don't let it come up, because what'll happen is it may bind inside there and then really scratch up the inside of the hole. Okay? Okay, so there's board number 1. It's done. Okay? And even though that wasn't exactly square, it's pretty good.
You can just sand that out.
Yeah, and when we sand that, we'll use a dowel. So why don't I pass that piece around, you guys can look at it.
Hey, I want to touch you.
Okay, board number 3. If you guys want to save these pieces, you may be able to glue them together and do something on the lathe. I don't want you rolling them around the shop, throwing them, or anything like that.
You don't want to find them in the halls.
Don't take them to your other classes. Okay, board number 3. Now, what do we do on board number 3? Both faces. So we're going all the way through board number 3. So we bring this down. I really made a big, you see how big that hole is with the scratch hole?
Yeah.
Big. If you can, spin this a little bit just so that it kind of centers. Bring that clamp down, clamp it in place, set your other clamp on the other side, making sure that it's not going to hit the handle. Make sure the cutter's not going to hit that clamp. That looks good. So it doesn't look centered. And that's probably what happens to some, even though I was really careful there.
You just say Dave Chappelle. This one was what
That looks great. When you guys are doing this, don't force it, okay? Let it cut at its own speed. You'll kind of feel it. If you try to force it, it's going to start tearing the wood. It's going to start... a little bit off the line. But not too bad. Okay, got that face. Got the front face of board number 3. Line it up by bringing that down into the hole. Make sure that's down.
Today's Thursday.
Oh, very good, Tyler.
Tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah. And Monday is no school.
What?
Are you serious?
You didn't know that?
Oh,
Did we just make your day?
Because it's a end of the quarter feature of the work day. Okay, again, I'm putting my thumb on the off button. In case something goes wrong, I can shut it off right away. Okay, I'll say it again. Make sure you have your thumb on the stop button so that if something goes wrong, you shut it off right away.